I got too many hoes, but they ain't you.
And we are back. It has been a little while since we were last on here, so I am thankful to be back. I've been just spending a little extra time on the charts themselves and just, getting some better learning, because the better that I learn and the better that I understand and I'm coming out on the end as a win, the better that I can teach you how to do the same. Okay, so what we are going to do is let's just kind of go ahead and get started. If you're new to the channel, my name is Ashley. And if you are more of a scalper, we don't do too much scalping. I would assume that the concept could potentially be the same on smaller time frames for a shorter period of time, but we mostly specialize in swing and day trading here. So hopefully that's helpful. I know that there are other people on YouTube that specialize in scalping, and I'm sure they would be more help for you if that's what you're into. Okay, so what we are going to do is go ahead and get started on the weekly for you, AU on the weekly. Let's see, let me shrink it a little bit. Okay, so on the weekly, I thought that the weekly was, I think I want to say I put in a trade for AU last week. I was able to actually profit a couple of times last week. I want to say it definitely for sure. I know on EU for sure on one. But when it comes down to AU is kind of doing, kind of moving to the downside right now. And this is actually a really nice setup right here that we're looking at. Let me try and go to the daily. And it probably could help if I did it a little bit more in the colors. But the reason why I called the channel what I called the channel, Trade in Black, is because when you trade with your candles in black, it helps to kind of remove that psychology piece, and you're not so worried when you place a trade, whether it's going up or it's red or it's green or it's blue or whatever colors that you're using at the time. You can mainly just focus on price movement rather than the color. Sometimes the color is helpful, but for the most part, once you've put your trade on, it is really helpful to just kind of focus on the price movement. So we are going to leave them black for today. So as of right now, price looks as though it has already kind of come up for a retest, and then we're potentially looking at a basically it continuing down. So I know for a fact that once we kind of got past this level that we were at, more like a bank level, we had a rejection up here at the top. Price kind of circled and came back down. Now I am kind of looking at some of these wicks that are down here. Those can sometimes indicate the price is going to reverse, but I strongly believe that we can just keep an eye on price, because I strongly believe we're going to see it continue down, at least until this next bank level that I kind of have marked here in gray. So I'll be keeping an eye on this. Also keep in mind, and this may not look like a whole lot of space or a whole lot of pips, but this is the daily. So let's go down to the 4 hour and see what that looks like. So yeah, I mean, price is rejected really bad up here, even up here, you know what I'm saying? Like, price is starting to get that rejection, and we could potentially see it headed down. Now, I will be keeping an eye out to see what price is going to do when it comes down to this last lowest point that it was at, which was back on the 16th of August. So I will check to see, or be checking if I do place a trade on the bearish side. I'll be checking to see if price is going to exceed its previous low that happened back on August the 16th. That's just something to keep an eye on, because if it doesn't, and then we start to see a reject there, we could potentially see something that looks like this. I never use Trading View, so I don't remember where shit is. All right, let's try to put this box right here just to kind of give you an idea of the area and what we could possibly see. Let's see, let's pull this guy out a little bit more, and let's grab the brush tool, because if we're starting to see a rejection at this space, we could potentially see some back and forth right here, a little bit of consolidation before price actually decides on which way it's going to go. So we'll just kind of have to keep an eye on it. It does look good for the downside. If you are going to go ahead and place it down, going to go ahead and place a trade for a short, I would only place it just so far, or just keep an eye on it when it gets to this place. And then once you see, or if you see it start to reverse here, just go ahead and get out of the trade. Because worst thing, I don't know, for me personally, I hate getting stuck in consolidation when I know that price is going a certain way, especially, you know, price could do anything during a news moment. So if you're going to place a bearish position, go ahead and do so, but keep an eye, especially when it hits this last point, and see what happens from there. Let's switch over to EU. So on EU, I am looking at EU. Let's see, I want to go back to the weekly on EU, because I want to say after, or when I started kind of looking at both EU and GU, they kind of resembled one another. So that's definitely something to take into account and watch for. As you're kind of looking on the weekly, you can see that it is in an uptrend, right? Here's the trend line. Let me make that another color. Oops. So you can actually see what I'm talking about. Okay. So with that, we can even make it a little bit thicker. So with it being up in an uptrend, it's kind of doing, kind of going into, because okay, you got your higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. We're kind of in a higher low moment right now. And if it is able to, let me grab a grid. If it is able to, try this back again, do that. And then let me grab this one more time. Let's see if we can. If we are able to see price get below here, then that's when I'll start to be like, okay, we could potentially be seeing it continuing down and hitting some type of reversal. But as of right now, I see it strongly on the upside. The trend is there. It's obvious. You can actually see the trend. So let's scroll down a little bit to like the daily. This is so crazy looking when you get down here. All right, so let me take this guy off, and then we can actually leave that one on there. So so kind of scrolling down, even on the daily, I'm still seeing kind of the same trend. We'll just have to see what happens, and if price is able to exceed its previous higher low. If it gets past this previous higher low, then we're looking at it reversing and continuing down. So let's go to the 4 hour real quick, and let's see what that looks like on the 4 hour. Right now, it kind of looks like an indecision. We did get a lot of rejection here. So honestly, I think that we could at least see price reach up to maybe the next level, and then we'll just kind of have to wait and see what price is going to do after that. This looks good to me on a long position for now. But also, you see how it kind of long wicked here. I would keep an eye out for that too. So maybe set up something to, set up an alert if you're going to take a long position. Set up an alert for the previous high that it was at, and that was on the 25th. Friday the 25th is just this Friday, and see what happens when it hits this top kind of point again. Like I said, it did get some rejection here down at the bottom, so we could potentially see it push back up, but I'll also be trying to keep an eye to see what's going to happen at this area as well. So let's scoot on over to GU and see what GU is doing. Switch back to the weekly. All right. So kind of how I mentioned, I'm kind of seeing the same scenario when it comes down to GU. If you're kind of looking, you can see that price is trending up. Granted, it didn't really quite get there or touch, but that's okay. It's kind of doing the same thing, and I'm kind of going to recommend the same thing when it comes down to GU as it was on EU, because more often than not, sometimes, when they look the same, when one pair is mocking the other pair, they kind of tend to move, parallel. They kind of move alike. So what I'll be waiting to see is price going to, keep in mind this is on the daily, so it could take a few days for it to actually get here, and we could get through a whole week before we even know. So you may, if you're wanting to kind of collect some pips, you would probably want to go to a smaller time frame and see what's happening on a smaller time frame. That way you can at least get some gains for the week while you kind of wait for price or see if price is going to exceed its previous high or low. Because as of right now, it looks like it is on a steady head down. Let's go to the 4-hour and see what that looks like. So being that price has exceeded a little bit from what we can see previously, it looks pretty strong, especially with the wick being so big on the last week's candle. It's giving morning star. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. Almost looks kind of like a grave candlestick. So we'll just have to see what's going to be kind of transpiring. Again, anytime there's like long, super long wicks, if you're gonna take the position, like let's say I'm gonna go ahead and take this position, I'm still gonna be checking in, like let's say I'm headed down, I'm still gonna be checking to see what price is going to do when it gets to this point, because price could easily hit you with some consolidation, or it could reverse on you. We could see another wick and it start to kind of reject this area and then head back up. And strongly, because that is the overall trend, I think that's what we're gonna see. So we'll just have to keep an eye and see what happens, what is to come. Let's switch over to UJ and see what UJ's got for us this week. So UJ is funny. The trend on UJ has been funny for me because I've been watching as the highest point that UJ had ever gotten to was last year, October the 17th. So with it heading back up, it's intriguing, but at the same time, because price rejected there, it may not be able to get past there. But also, I've also learned that the more the support and resistance zone is tested, the less likely it is to be respected. So we'll just have to see. That would mean that if this is able to get up and past or close to where it was previously at, you can expect the US dollar to go down. So we'll see kind of the opposite trend for like AU. But oh, shoot, looks like we're frozen a little bit. So yeah, so like just using this as an example, we would expect to see the opposite kind of happen, and then this would be, the other one, UJ, would be headed up while this one would be continuing to head down. So we're just gonna have to keep an eye on it. I don't think that I'll be placing a trade on UJ this week, simply because it's getting ready to approach that area where it was previously at, and it rejected big time, and that was the highest that the market had ever been for UJ. So I will be keeping an eye out, but I probably won't be placing anything, just kind of watching it for the most part when there's other markets that you could potentially get into and see if there's something that happens there where you could collect some pips. So if you're looking at it on a 4-hour time frame, it looks like we are still headed up. We'll just have to wait and see. Like I said, with it getting to that high, the highest that it had ever been back in October of last year, who's to say what's going to happen when it gets there again? It's kind of slowly starting to create a decent amount of history for us to kind of go by. But if you are using the smaller time frames, again, you can always go in and kind of make sure that you collect some tips for that particular week. I personally probably won't be doing too much. I'm waiting to see, okay, as you're kind of looking at it right now, I would be waiting to see what's going to happen, setting myself an alarm for what's going to happen when price gets to, allergies happening in the chokehold right now. Waiting to see what price is going to do when it gets to this point. So we're here now. Let's just see what happens, and if price is actually able to get up here, and then if not, then we could potentially see a reversal. So that is it for today. I hope that was helpful. I feel like it was a little shorter this time, because I want to try to keep it as short and kind of packed with as much as I can possibly do without having it be so long, and if I'm not teaching you something else just besides the weekly. So hopeful this was helpful. I hope you guys have a fantastic trading week. Get after it.